Went to the European theater. We landed at Marseille, France, and instead of going, having to go through Normandy and all up there, we went up the Rhone River Valley, and well, actually, the very first thing they did was send us over to Nice, France, on the Riviera. The Germans and the Italians had been over there in the mountains fighting, and so they sent part of our unit over there to fight that. And I don't know if anybody ever got killed there, but they fought them off and brought us back, and then we went up back over to Marseille and up the Rhone River Valley. I remember going to Marseille and to Nancy, and then we went over to the area of what's called Alsace-Lorraine. We went, I think, more to the Lorraine part, down near, I was in the 7th Army under General Patch, and I was in the 14th Armored Division by then. And so our main fighting came on New Year's Day. At that time, we were in a little, our headquarters was in a little schoolhouse with a stove and all that. And we were all living in places wherever we could find little houses in that little village. I was living in a 2-story unit just across a creek that had a bridge over it, but it was so bitterly cold, I can remember that I was upstairs and my 2 buddies were downstairs in a bed. I was sleeping on a cot upstairs, and the Army had assigned us cots. We all carried a cot with us when we went. So suddenly on New Year's Day, I know that on New Year's Eve, the cook had promised us a great New Year's Day meal. We were going to have turkey trimmings and all the dressing. And so anyhow, when this knock came on the door and somebody yelled, get out, the Germans are attacking and coming, we had to hurry up and get all our stuff packed at that place and run across that little bridge and toward that schoolhouse. I remember I was just over that bridge with my 2 buddies, and a mortar shell, I guess, hit that bridge and blew it up. And so fortunately wasn't hurt at all. But when I got to the schoolhouse, a German shell, mortar shell, or artillery shell or something, had hit that little schoolhouse right above where the kitchen had been, and blew out the windows, blew glass all into that turkey and all that we were going to have to eat. So we never did get to eat that. And so we stayed there. I don't think we stayed there over, not even a night, because the Germans were coming, and the orders had came to pull back. So we pulled back, I don't know where, but several miles to a big house where we all slept there, and just on our bedrolls in that. I don't know whether it's a barn or a schoolhouse or what, but the orders came to. We had to take our position back to command headquarters to get our new orders. And so I had a Jeep driver that drove, and I was going back to get those orders. While I was there, we were so bitterly cold, and the people who had already beat us there had built a huge campfire. There was a lot of people gathered around that campfire trying to stay warm. And so while I was there, I got my only wound in the Army. What had happened was somebody had thrown a live shell into the bonfire. It went off while I was there, in there standing around, hit me right in the leg, just kind of bruised my leg because I had on these thick clothes. Just bruised me. Never did get a Purple Heart for it, didn't deserve one, but that was the only time I was hurt in the Army. So anyhow, we pulled back, took those orders back, which sent us on back, and then we got into our really, the biggest fighting we had. I was in what was called Combat Command Reserve. Armored Division had combat commands in those days. You had Combat A, B, C, Reserve. And then as one unit would get depleted, they would send the other. Either, if A, B, and C got depleted, the command would go up and replace that unit. So anyway, there was severe fighting in a little town called Haddon and another called Rittershoffen. And so that was really the worst of it at that time. But I was in reserve command and never did have to go up to the front. I know our captain that was in our unit, who was in charge of what was called S2, which was communications and all, he went to the front and survived it and won a Silver Star. Anyway, then they finally came orders to pull back behind a river that ran close behind us called the Mosel River, I think it was, something like that. And we lived there in a schoolhouse and just on cots the whole time. Had a big stove there that kept us warm and all that. And we would eat, the cook would cook. It seemed like there was a little place there where he cooked. And then we would go over there, herd over there, where their mess kits, get it fitted, whatever he was offering, run back to the schoolhouse where we were staying and eat our meal.
So you did not get a Purple Heart, but
No.
you were awarded a Bronze Star.
Well, the Bronze Star came when after after all the fighting had died down there, then we were ordered to attack again. And we then attacked, pushed the Germans back through what was called the Wissembourg Pass, which is right up where really I think Germany and France joined. And we fought our way through the Wissembourg Pass and on there to a little town, or at least it had a lot of pillboxes and dragon's teeth, as they were called, and all that. And that's where I won the Bronze Star. I was very lucky because a guy who was on up, well, maybe 25 or 40 yards ahead of me got hit by a mortar shell and just blew him to pieces. But I wasn't hit. But when I got up to that spot, it was really not much left, but just a lot of blood on the wall of that place and all. But I got a Bronze Star for it. Really, the man who got killed deserved the Bronze Star more than I did. But anyway, we went on and actually we managed to break through, which broke through the German lines. Went on up to the Rhine River, a huge river. Went across the Rhine on pontoon bridge that the engineers had built. And then went up the Rhine River on the east side. On up, I remember going up to a little town of Darmstadt. It wasn't so small at that, but it was a city, I guess. In the old days, it had been bombed so heavily. It was bombed out city I can ever remember. There's nothing left but just some walls standing, no roofs, no nothing. So anyhow, we went through that and turned to the right, went through another little town called Rittershoffen, and went on down, fought our way to the Czechoslovakia border German and Czechoslovakia, and then turned south, and we went down to, really we're not, I don't think we were Bavaria, maybe we were, but we went to a place called Regensburg, which is a big, had a big bridge over the Danube River. And I can remember there that the Germans were shooting at us and shelling us. And one big shell landed, I guess, probably a considerable distance away from me, 50 yards or so. But it landed with such force that the blast knocked me down. But anyhow, we got on across the Danube River and fought our way on down to those towns there when the war ended. And so after that, I had, then they shifted me to what had been a Hitler youth school, I think, university or something. It was all on top of a big hill, mountain, but flat top, and there were a lot of what had been classes there, and so we were sleeping there in those classrooms and places where the Germans had lived and the students had lived, and we were staying there until to invade Japan. So I went to another place there, I don't remember the name of it, and we were there and training and all that. I remember that the colonel that was in charge of that had been head of a cemetery, of a mortuary. I didn't like him at all. He was very tough. But anyway, we were there and training to invade you, to help when we invaded Japan, when the Americans dropped the 2 atomic bombs that ended the war. So after that, we just stayed there a while, and then the orders came for me to ship out to go back home. Went back to, I think, Le Havre, France then, and boarded the ship, brought me back home. Went to the processing plant at somewhere there, right outside New York, and then caught a train that brought me back to Texas. And from Texas, I caught a bus that brought me back to the Greyhound station, the old Greyhound station there on Austin, I think it was, on up there. And my folks came to get me and took me home.
So